My name's Cathy Walters, and I'm going to tell you a story that's called Jack-o'-lantern. Finding himself lost and alone on the marshlands in the middle of the night after a long day's hard, unsuccessful hunting, John decided that the best thing to do would be to sit down and stay the night. He had no torch or lantern to find his way home, so he just propped himself up against a stone. And as he sat there, he started thinking about a story that his grandfather had told him, about a wicked, evil man who roamed the moors at night, frightening anyone who was there. There was once a man called Jack. He was a mean, nasty, spiteful fellow, whose only pleasure in life was to beat and bully his wife and children. And as the days and months and years wore on, his bullying got harsher and harsher, until one day his body was so worn out with all the nasty, spiteful things he did, that it gave up, and he died. He went up to heaven, where Peter was waiting at the gates for him. "You're not coming in here," said Peter. "We only have good fellows here. Get thee down to hell, and may you burn for evermore." And so Jack went down to the depths of hell, where the devil himself was waiting in front of the great fires. "Let me in," shouted Jack. "I need to come in." "You're not coming in here," said the devil. "You're too bad even for hell. Get yourself back up to earth." "But I have no light," shouted Jack. "How can I get back up to earth in this dark, dark night? Throw me a lantern." So the devil threw him a piece of molten lava, which Jack used as a lantern to guide his way back up to the earth, where it is said he roams the moors every night looking for some unsuspecting person stuck there alone. Well, it was at this point in his musings that John happened to look out over the marshes, and in the distance he saw a light that blinked on, off, on, off, on, off. "Is that you, Jack-o'-lantern?" he called out jovially. For a while there was no reply, and just as he was settling back down again, he heard a voice hissing in the mist. "Jack, Jack, Jack, Jack," it went. But as he looked up, he could see no one. All he could see was that light blinking on, off, on, off, on and off. And then of a sudden he heard the noise again. "Jack, Jack, Jack, Jack," it whispered, and it came from his left this time. Well, as you can imagine, he was now seriously frightened. He picked up his gun and he waved it around. "Show yourself," he said. "Where are you?" But he could see no one. All he could hear was that Jack, 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 and that light blinking on, off, on, off, on, off. And as he sat there and listened, it seemed to be getting quieter. Jack, 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 Jack. And the light was blinking from further away. So he started to feel a bit safer, a bit more secure and confident. There was a long, long silence. He couldn't hear the trees in the breeze. He couldn't hear the turtles in the water or the night crickets. All was quiet. When of a sudden, right by his ear, he heard that menacing noise. And he was aware of that light blinking on and off and on and off. And very slowly he looked up, right into the red, burning coal eyes of a jack-o'-lantern. Its face was grotesque. It was deathly white, with a gash for its mouth and long black pointing teeth. And the smell from its breath was horrible, unbearable, and it was getting closer and closer and closer. John screamed. He jumped to his feet and went to run. He knew he had to get away, but in his haste he tripped and he fell and he banged his head against a stone. For a while, all he could see was stars swimming in front of his eyes, and all he could feel was the blood gushing from that gash on the back of his head. And all the while he could hear chuck, 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 and see that light blinking on and off and on and off and on and off. He couldn't run. He couldn't run. His legs were sore. He was tired, so he rolled and he rolled and he rolled until he plunged down into the depths of the pool. Down, down he went, flailing his arms and kicking his legs, trying to free himself from the rope-like grasses that were pulling him down and down further. He knew he had to get his head above water. He knew he had to get air. And he kicked and he swam, and finally, his head came up above the water. But as he looked up, there was that grotesque image of the jack-o'-lantern, Jack, 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 hissing at him, and his light forever blinking on and off, on and off, on and off. John knew he had to keep fighting. He knew he had to keep his head above water or he would drown. But his legs felt heavy and his arms wouldn't move. And as he looked up into that evil face, smiling at him with that breath oozing out all over him, he sank and sank and sank. So the last thing he saw was that image in the mist and that voice hissing, Jack, 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 Jack. Thank you.